Our next presenter did his BS with honors in biology at Brown University. He studied in the PhD program at the University of California, San Francisco in molecular biology and biochemistry on an NSF fellowship. He has given scientific talks on gene expression, health, and longevity around the US, China, Japan, and the Philippines. Rob is very interested in understanding the epigenetic changes in the aging process and ways to reverse aging and youthful life extension. Rob is also the director of the veterinarian services at the Oregon Tiger Sanctuary, a nonprofit exotic animal sanctuary. Please help me give a warm welcome to my good friend and colleague, Robert Nagato Needleman.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you. I want to thank Dr. Gala and Rebecca and everyone here. It's been a phenomenal program. You've been enjoying yourself. There's a lot of really good topics and speakers. And my topic is gene expression for health and longevity. Now, this is a big topic. I'm going to give you a short 10-minute version, but it's an extensive topic. But I think you're going to really be happy to understand this information because it really empowers you in your own health and longevity. So one of the big questions is, why do you see some people age slowly while other people age more quickly? It's sort of a core issue here. And some people might say, well, it's their genes or this or that. We're going to look scientifically at the answer to that question. So one of the best ways to look at this is through twin studies. The reason is identical twins have exactly the same DNA, same exact genes. They're born from the same egg and sperm fertilized, okay? But what happens over time is they tend to age very differently. And that's because of life experiences, things they've eaten, emotional experiences, exposure to different toxins, all kinds of things. But these studies show you that something else is going on, doesn't matter male, female, in terms of it's not just your genetics that determine your aging or your health. There's studies also about body weight. Okay, these are identical twins. Same exact DNA in these two women, dramatic difference in body weight. Something else is going on here. Here's another example, identical twins. Now this also works for health. Okay, these are twin sisters. One of the twins has Alzheimer's disease. Her twin sister, same genetics, is healthy. So you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? What is the difference in these twins? And there was a great article in National Geographic called Twins Alike But Not Alike. What they found was that although twins have exactly the same DNA, they didn't use their DNA differently. It's something called gene expression, or you may have heard the term epigenetics, which means above genetics. These are changes in our DNA that have nothing to do with our DNA sequence. That pretty much stays the same for our life, but the gene expression changes a lot. So it begs the question, what is the difference between genetics and gene expression? Well, genetics is the chromosomes we inherit, the DNA we inherit. Like I said, it doesn't change that much in our lifetime. That's the genes we get from our parents, okay? Now, what our DNA actually is, it's a blueprint. It holds information to make the proteins that make up our body, but that's what it is. For instance, if I showed you a blueprint of a house, you could build a house from that blueprint, but the blueprint doesn't do the actual work. It has to be interpreted from another source. And the same thing happens with our DNA. Our DNA holds the information, but there's something called gene expression that's determining how those genes are used in our body and whether it's towards health or not. DNA, gene expression, is changing all the time. If I took a blood sample from all of us in the room right now, we all ate an apple, 20, 30 minutes later we took another blood sample, you'd see tons of changes in gene expression. It's going on in your body all the time. And I'm also a sound engineer, so I like this example, but if you look at in a sound mixing board, pretend that each one of these channels in the mixer is a gene in your body. Well, some of the genes are going to be all the way turned off. Some of the genes will be turned up all the way, and then there's all different levels in between. And you'll see these patterns occur, like on the mixing board. There's going to be a pattern for health, a pattern for youth. There's also going to be a pattern for sickness. Now, the beauty of this is you can move these faders around. You have the power to affect your gene expression. And we're going to look at scientifically why that's true. But the concept of the twins, the gene expression differences in these twins is what's accounting for how fast they age, how healthy they are. whether they're overweight or not. It's not their actual DNA, because the DNA is the same, which is a very empowering statement. So then it asks the next question, what controls gene expression? If you want to be in charge of it, what controls it? Well, Dr. Bruce Lipton did an experiment. He was a cell biologist at the time at Stanford, University of Wisconsin. He took stem cells in a petri dish. And stem cells are like twins. They're genetically identical cells. You've probably heard of stem cells. They're also hot in the media a lot. Well, he split them into 3 different petri dishes. So now you have 3 dishes with exactly the same cells in them, DNA-wise. Exactly the same cells, period. And it's just like twins. And what he did was he varied the nutrients in the 3 dishes, okay? And what he got, the first dish turned into bone cells. Second dish turned into muscle cells. And the third dish turned into fat cells from the same DNA. What was different was the environment. So the cells perceived their environment nutritionally and in all different ways, and from that determine which genes that the cell chooses to use. So it's an interaction between our environment and our cells, our genes, our body, how we perceive our environment. You've been hearing a lot about stress and how you deal with stress and all of these things. Your body's perceiving the environment, your mind is, and it's making choices what genes to use. And those genes are either making you healthier or sicker based on which ones are turned on and off. And what affects gene expression? I put everything on this list has been scientifically shown to affect your gene expression. How you eat, whether you exercise or not, your emotions, if there's toxins in your environment, your food, whether you meditate, smoking, stress control, skin care, anything you put on your skin affects the gene expression. Yoga affects gene expression. How you think, your thoughts, supplements you take, everything you're doing in your life is affecting how you choose to use your genes. And Discover ran a really good article. Trait versus Fate was the first publication, and then it was called Grandma's Experiences Leave a Mark on Your Genes. And what they were showing was not only does these gene expression changes affect you, but you pass them on to your children. And this is not like passing on your eye color or something. This is passing on something that is changeable in the future. But you have to know that and you have to apply that. So your grandmother, when she was a baby, was either nurtured and given a lot of care and love, or perhaps she went through traumatic experiences, a traumatic childhood. Well, that put marks on her genes, in her brain, in her body, just like all of us. And what happens is, that was passed on to you. So whether these are empowering traits, whether she was treated very lovingly and well, you might be someone who's able to form healthy relationships, or somebody who is able to give love easily or be more relaxed. Whereas if your grandmother and ancestors further back experienced trauma, that also marks the genes and can predispose people to depression, to post-traumatic stress disorder, to being more anxious or nervous. And what the take-home I want to give you today is the powerful part of this is that if you look at your ancestors, your grandmother, great-grandmother, when this woman was a baby, her experiences affected her genes, put marks on the genes that she passes on from generation to generation. Now what's different than genetics, so genetics is kind of written in pen. Okay, we cannot change our genetics that much. That's pretty much something you were given, and but you don't change that a lot in your lifetime unless there's mutation, like things like smoking, things that are particularly harmful can mutate the DNA. But for the most part, genetics are written in pen. Gene expression is written in pencil. You can change your gene expression. That is in your power. And that's a very good thing to know for your health. You are in charge of your health. You're not a victim to your DNA. So a lot of people look at their parents and say, oh, they got that disease, I'm going to get it, or they age really poorly, I'm going to age poorly. That isn't scientifically true. That's one of the biggest things I want you to take home from this talk today. Time ran a great article called Why Your DNA Isn't Your Destiny. And it was this very similar concept that these changes are up to you, and they can be passed down from generation to generation, and they can be undone by you as well if it's a negative thing. 90 to 95% of all cancers have no hereditary linkage. Okay? Cancer, the majority of cancer is not genetic. And even if somebody has a gene that predisposes them to a cancer, Why for 50 years were they healthy and then all of a sudden developed that cancer? Something changed other than the gene, okay? This gives you a lot of power. Obesity, the same way. Genetics is unlikely to explain that. You saw Dr. Gala showed that incredible growth of obesity. It's not just the US, it's around the world. It's considered an epidemic now by the World Health Organization. It's not genetic. It's based in gene expression, which means it's changeable by us. So how can you apply this knowledge? You can make choices in your life. You've been given a lot of modalities here in this phenomenal longevity summit the last few days. When you make these choices, you actually affect your DNA. You affect your gene expression. And if you do this long enough and consistently enough, you actually can pass it on to your children. It's been scientifically shown if a woman is overweight and has a baby, an obese woman, it's highly likely the child will become obese. That same woman loses the weight and becomes healthy and gives birth to a baby from the same uterus, that baby will not be obese. Okay, it's the environment. It's how you think and feel and eat and everything. So you can add a decade or more to your life based on these healthy lifestyle choices. They're talking now, it's all over the media, longevity, 142 years old. Who knows what the upper limit are? I have heard of hundreds and hundreds of years in India, people living even thousands of years. The sky is the limit, but it's healthy life we're looking for. Healthy life, lifespan, youth span, health span, okay? You can turn on your lean genes, something called nutrigenomics, the study of the interaction between what you eat and your DNA. You just saw from Dr. Gala some really potent dietary choices. It affects your gene expression. Okay, all of those pathways of inflammation all are turning genes on and off, and it's up to you which direction you go. They did a study of men with early stage prostate cancer. I'm going to give you a few scientific examples. Everything I'm showing you is science. This is not my opinion. This is science, okay? Good science, too. So they took these men with early stage prostate cancer, and what they did was they improved their nutrition, how they managed stress, their social interactions, how they exercise, everything we're talking about here. Over 500 genes, they changed the gene expression. That's impressive. And that's turning down cancer-promoting genes, turning up health-promoting genes. It's a very powerful example of what I'm telling you. Here's an example with mice. Okay, these are genetically identical mice. They both carry a mutation in the agouti gene, which makes them prone to being overweight, obese, yellow. They get diabetes, they get cancer. This is a twin, okay, genetically identical. The only difference is this mouse on the right, when she was in utero and her mother was given extra B vitamins, B12 and folate, completely shut down this mutation. What's even more amazing is when she gives birth to babies, they're normal babies too. So that mark on the DNA stuck. Okay, so you have the power to affect whatever genetics you're given. You have choices to make. And here's an example, could be a man just as well. Both of these women are 74 years old. The choice is yours to make. It really is up to you, okay? Every choice you make is affecting your gene expression. My biggest thing I want you to take home is to think that way. The decisions are big decisions, and they do affect you in your DNA, okay? So, in summary, everything you eat, every exercise you choose to do or not, how you think, whether you're learning to be more peaceful or stressed, whichever way, how you deal with stress, supplements you take, yoga you do, meditation, breathing exercises, everything on this list, how you feel, your emotional state, is either affecting your gene expression towards youth, health, longevity, or it's affecting it toward aging and possible disease. But the choice is yours. Okay, and that's my take home, what you can do with my talk message. I hope it's very helpful. You're welcome to reach me on Facebook if you want to hear more about this. I do much longer talks normally, but Dr. Thad asked for a 10-minute overview of gene expression and health and longevity. So thank you very much.
That was awesome. That was great.